Hello and welcome back to Coin Lady channel. I would like to discuss a few things that might make you angry. Now a fresh video has appeared online. The paper was presented at a recent Ethereum conference in Denver and published the very next day. And then there's Joe Lubin, who not only co-founded Ethereum but also created the company that creates everything related to Ethereum, Consensus. The architect Gary Gensler is receiving high praise from him. The gist of it is that this man has a lot of guts. The sheer number and severity of his transgressions is mind-boggling. And then there are all these other crypto entities that are getting attacked. The crowd is booing him because he is praising Gary Gensler. The relief I felt at that point was temporary, however, and I'm sure he's still feeling it. Consequently, even though the SEC's leadership has changed, the same principles still apply. To recap, in 2018, Bill Hinman gave the fake Ethereum a pass because, after all, it was just his opinion. Time flies, that was nearly 5 years ago. His departure is therefore confirmed. Even though Gary Gensler is in charge now and Jay Clayton has been let go, Jay still feels like he's safe. Because of this, I will be revealing a crucial segment of the transcript to you. Plus, as you know, Coinbase recently unlisted XRP from its platform. Since Ripple's delisting of XRP in response to a lawsuit from the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC), Coinbase has apparently adopted the same legal stance. They've essentially stolen Ripple's legal strategy. Keep in mind that they've already delisted XRP, and that they are taking this stance in part so that they don't have to list any other cryptocurrencies even if the SEC decides in the future that they, too, are securities. Enjoy yourselves, everyone. Okay, fasten your seatbelts. I do need to make something crystal clear before I go any further. I come from no financial or legal background. You should not buy or sell anything based on what I say or write because I am not a legal or financial advisor. Just a hobbyist here who occasionally posts videos to YouTube on various crypto-related topics. Okay, then? So, I found this video on YouTube thanks to a fellow YouTuber, the digital asset investor, and in a moment I'll share the transcription that I think is most important. Now, before we get to what the cryptocurrency investor tweeted about it, let me explain something. And just so we're clear, this conference happened a couple of weeks ago, but it wasn't until literally yesterday that the ETH Denver, the YouTube account, posted this video, and I quickly found this, as he explained in his post. That being said, let's hear what he had to say. The event in question occurred a couple of weeks ago, but we only learned of it now. Just the day before. This is what he claimed. Ethereum co-creator Joe Lubin will be the guest of honor at a March 14, 2023, fireside chat. Prepare to feel anger. One man in the crypto industry, who like Sam Bankman-Fried, was able to come in and talk to the SEC, mocks his colleagues. It's important to recall the New York Attorney General's lawsuit against KuCoin on the grounds that ETH is a security. It was as if she were playing a ruse to force Gary Gensler to leave the stadium after the game. So I'll pause to make a point that I'm sure most of you already know, but it bears repeating just in case. That information is kind of crucial. Indeed, the New York Attorney General is pursuing legal action against KuCoin on the grounds that the company is selling unregistered securities, more specifically ETH, a security. Furthermore, she still possesses this location. That means it was the SEC, but Joe Lubin isn't fazed in the least. Anyway, Dai continues, so he said, yeah, it almost felt like she was acting as a proxy so that Gary Gensler wouldn't have to go after the ETH gang, suggesting that Gary Gensler may have been relieved of the responsibility of pursuing the ETH gang. So doing would give the impression that ETH is being subjected to the same level of scrutiny as everything else, when in fact it isn't. After all, if the SEC went after ETH, it would be a nightmare for everyone involved, revealing all sorts of corruption and those sneaky whales in disguise. One major flaw did exist in the scheme. Joseph Lubin's propensity for speaking out was, as usual, grossly underappreciated. When Lubin and Buterin are the target, I think they are actually going after ETH. It's obvious that this is frustrating, so I'll just point out where I respectfully disagree. I concur with Dai completely on that point. However, there is this theory that the SEC won't go after the ETH gang because doing so would be a nightmare for discovery and would reveal the identities of the disguised whales. That is, unless you believe that the SEC is staffed by whales in disguise. And no one has suggested that any of the hidden whales are employed by the SEC, at least, not that I've seen. As a result, the possibility that it would reveal anonymous whales is not a reason why the SEC shouldn't investigate them. That wouldn't prevent them if they made up their minds to do it. This idea has been brought up before. Dye describes how the discovery was made, and this is a fair point to make. That sounds like a terrible nightmare for obvious reasons. Now, here's the catch. To my knowledge, that wouldn't deter the SEC from going after ETH. The SEC appears to be braced for the arrival of potentially discoverable information of this nature. Consider the Ripple instance as an illustration. Bill Hinman's Ethereum speech drafts and related email correspondence. To be perfectly frank, that is a sizable portion of this. In addition, there is a plethora of emails connected to that. And yes, the SEC didn't want that out and they are fighting it, but it's a futile effort because it's inevitably going to come out because there are all kinds of other lawsuits, which frankly, is they go after ERC-20 tokens, which I mean, the SEC is doing it. That's when its usefulness would be magnified even further. In other words, I don't think the SEC would be deterred from going after it no matter what discovery consequences might arise from such information being made public. That's just how I feel about it. Some of you may agree, and that's fine. This is perfectly acceptable. While I agree that this is outrageous, my take is slightly different from that of DAI. Anyway, this is what I'm going to share as far as the transcription goes. And it was wonderful to see that at least some of the audience was booing. But Joe Lubin did say something that might be considered controversial, quote, "I actually think that and this. It's great that Gary Gensler and the SEC are pushing for such radical decentralization of projects in our ecosystem. Gary is the shining example of decentralization, if you will." Whoa. Yes, you've guessed correctly. That would be me, Gary Gensler. This is Kim Gensler. As far as Joe Lubin is concerned, he's the white knight of decentralization. Holy S******, that's awful. Obviously, this is absurd. Don't think for a second that the ETH crew around here won't be sued. The truth is that I have no idea when it will occur. But if things go poorly for Ripple, that likelihood increases significantly. I don't think they'll let the possibility of being discovered deter them from going after these people in any way, shape, or form. But decentralization, the shining knight. But think about this, and let me just bring this up again. I've mentioned it a few times recently because it's still an issue worth discussing. Take a look at the splash page from September 15, 2022, in Decrypt. The much-anticipated merge event on Ethereum has been completed, ushering in proof of stake. Well, there you have it. Last year, in the month of September, that was a major story. Ethereum's proof of work transition to proof of stake has been completed successfully, and this is the big news. This was a huge story that day. It made the headlines. Proof of stake assets could be securities, according to Gensler. It's clear that they are making fun of Ethereum there. Although Gary Gensler has claimed that anything other than Bitcoin is a security, it's safe to assume that he is not overjoyed by anything Ethereum related. I just have to respectfully disagree with the idea that he won't go after them. However, as I've said before, much will depend on the outcome of the Ripple case, which could throw a wrench in the works and force the SEC to regroup. So it's possible that the SEC will never investigate them. However, I do not believe that discovery will necessarily put a stop to that. Another option is Coinbase. My God. Okay, then. Another piece of legislation has apparently fallen by the wayside. James K. Fallon, an attorney and member of the XRP community, deserves a big thank you and a big shout out. Coinbase has filed a motion to participate as an amicus in the SEC versus Wahai case, as he announced yesterday evening on Twitter. You can read the entire case analysis below. And I'd like to get right to the point. Okay, let's get right down to business. And now we get to the frustrating part, because it is true that, once again, Coinbase delisted XRP. This is their position now. A linguine spine to what appears to be a material backbone, that's the difference. Allegedly. They are, however, mimicking Ripple's strategy in the courtroom. According to House, the company's future success will depend on the innovative legal strategy developed by Ripple's lawyers after the company was spun off. The final tally is expected to be around $100 million. And I'm not even implying that they shouldn't do it, this is just an indirect comment. In a legal sense, this is the proper method. Coinbase should absolutely implement these changes. I've given exchanges the benefit of the doubt, but it's so annoying that they've already thrown XRP under the bus. Frustration persists, however, because they delisted XRP. Now they take the position of, yeah, well, we know the SEC says that so and so is a security of crypto asset. It's possible that we won't include it in our catalog. And now they have accepted Ripple's legal argument word for word. For this reason, we must demonstrate that it is illogical for them to relist XRP while simultaneously continuing to delist other items. Obviously, this is absurd. Here, then, is a tweet from Scott Chamberlain, an ex-attorney and current member of the XRP community. If this is their position, and he is referring to Coinbase, the following two paragraphs will stand out. That Coinbase delisted XRP and has yet to reinstate it is inexcusable if, in their view, the tokens are not investment contracts because investment contract requires a contract and secondary market sales come with no contracts attached. Well, that's just perfect. The tweet was retweeted by me. Hell, yeah, without a doubt was my reaction. I shared that and added that Coinbase is making the same legal case that Ripple made against the SEC. This is an argument with some weight to it. I'm hopeful, but I don't know how it will go down in district court. However, the SEC stands to lose if the Ripple lawsuit makes it all the way to the Supreme Court. This is consistent with what I tweeted earlier and what I believe to be true. Once again, though, it's obvious that no agreement was ever reached. If that's the case, how can there be a contract to invest? Of course, that's not possible. And if you can't even meet those minimum requirements, you shouldn't even be discussing the Howey test. If there is an investment contract, then the Howey test would be relevant. If there is no legally binding agreement between the parties, there can be no investment. To avoid further discussion, let's not even bring up Howey. However, if you insist on putting XRP through the Howey test, even if only as a fun little exercise, you will find that it fails, meaning that XRP is not a security. Here then are a couple of screenshots from Coinbase's SEC filing, which reads as follows. It's a carbon copy of Ripple's strategy, as I'll show you as I read it. But look, I'm glad they are doing this even though I'm frustrated with Coinbase and how they are going about it. It makes me feel a little queasy, but I'm glad they are doing it because it's the lawful thing to do and it will help. So even if it isn't going to win in a district court level, because, you know, when it comes to a district court level, which is where things start, it's like judges there tend to not want to rock the boat. Nonetheless, a ruling that effectively results in new law is more likely to occur when the case reaches an appellate level court or the Supreme Court. According to the opinions of attorneys in our community and the wider crypto space, I have concluded that this is unlikely to happen at the district court level. This is the white paper that Coinbase produced. Coinbase argues that the SEC's stance is fatally flawed on two separate counts. Just so we're clear, when they say something is dispositive of a case, they are essentially saying it destroys the case. It detracts from the main contention. And the SEC is legally wrong and must concede defeat. To put it another way, that is the point they are making. So, things keep going on that note. To begin, the SEC lawsuit is based on the false premise that the 7 assets listed on Coinbase that are the subject of the SEC's complaint are in fact securities. However, Coinbase does not feature any stock exchange listings. The SEC argues that digital assets are securities because they are investment contracts, but these assets do not meet the definition of a security under the law because they are not transferable or tradable. They do not constitute either investments nor contracts. That's what causes the initial waves, laid bare for all to see. They were the ones who originally stated and argued this position, setting the stage for the case at hand. After all, Coinbase keeps up the mountain of evidence for eternal significance, and Supreme Court precedent backs up what the text says. From state blue sky laws, which are universally understood to require, among other things, a contractual relationship between the investor and promoter and an outlay intended to yield a profit, Congress adapted the investment contract. That's been reaffirmed by the Supreme Court's Howey ruling. As a preliminary issue, the court found that the numerous contracts at hand easily met the requisite contract. The court went on to explain that under the securities laws, investment contracts are those that involve money being invested in a common enterprise with profits coming solely from the efforts of others, a formulation commonly known as the Howey test, and ultimately determined that the contracts at issue met this standard. In the end, that is how the SEC versus W.J. Howey Co. case actually played out. Indeed, that's precisely what occurred in 1946. However, a real agreement was reached and money was put down. This has been the situation all along, by the way. Case law review, which has been done, by the way, case law review will reveal that to be true in every single ruling. No court or other judicial body has ever ruled that sales on the secondary market qualifies such deals, so this goes without saying. Coinbase nonetheless persists. And look at this. This is where things get blunt. Coinbase's listed assets fail to meet either of these standards. First and foremost, the SEC has not and cannot allege that the assets involve contracts or that the defendant's secondary market transactions involve contracts. Assets such as gold and trading cards are examples of the types of things listed on Coinbase. Many of their features match those of commodities, which are governed by a different set of federal statutes. However, contracts involving digital assets cannot be implemented on the asset itself. Stop for a moment. This is, of course, what Ripple has been saying. However, that particular section is also spot on. Looks like the same thing lawyer John Deaton has been saying for, 2 years now? Absolutely. Absolutely correct. My gut tells me that the best way to combat the SEC is to band together with other cryptocurrency enthusiasts, like Coinbase, and share what we've learned. I can't help but wonder how closely Coinbase has been following Attorney Deaton and the developments in the Ripple case, and gleaning any and all relevant information from them. But if that's the case, I still say to go for it. The way they've handled Ripple and XRP in particular is what's really getting under my skin. Therefore, Coinbase is acceptable. And, hey, I'm not above giving props where they are due. As it turned out, they did submit an amicus brief. While the SEC Ripple case, the public has been kept in the dark, however, and so they lodged it. But I can't figure out why that is. They didn't want to say anything about the case, so they remained silent for, 2 years. And that still annoys me, at least a little. Simply put, that's the case. I'm just steaming some veg here, son. In any case, Coinbase goes on, according to an SEC official's 2018 explanation in and of itself, a digital asset is not a security. As Hawaii's orange groves are not like those on the mainland. That in and of itself is the game. The so-called Howey test for identifying investment contracts as distinct from other types of agreements need not be applied in the absence of a written agreement. Coinbase-listed assets, however, also fail this test. They do not necessitate putting money into a group project in the hopes of reaping financial benefits due to the efforts of others. The application of Howey's 80-year-old test to digital assets makes little sense. I think it's important to point out that Coinbase is, of course, correct. They are completely on the money there. And yet, I'm still annoyed. Can I ask if you're feeling just a tad bit annoyed? Can I assume there are no irate people in the world? Mildly aggravated, at the very least. Possibly annoyed, even if not angry, at yourself. As a human being, this bothers me. Coinbase, being as large as they are, could have been vocal about all sorts of things over the past 2 years and more, and I just don't think this is the right approach. Again, it's great that they filed an amicus brief, but they missed an opportunity to unite the crypto community and eliminate tribalism by spreading this information to a wider audience. Moreover, they refrained from carrying it out. That settles that, then? It's just not for me. It's just not something I enjoy doing. In terms of money, I can't offer you any advice. Nothing I write or say should be used as a basis for a purchase or sale. We strongly advise against doing that. There will be a next time. Please like and subscribe my channel. See you in the next video. Bye.